Hello, everyone, and welcome to On the Couch, the podcast where we bring you intimate, thought-provoking conversations with fascinating individuals from all corners of life. I'm your host, Dr. Diamond, along with my co-hosts, and each episode will dive deep into the minds and hearts of our guests, uncovering the experiences and stories that shape their lives. From heartfelt personal journeys to groundbreaking ideas, On the Couch offers a unique space to explore it all. So, sit back, relax, and join us for a journey of discovery, connection, and inspiration. Welcome to the couch, and let's go.
Good morning, you all. Welcome back to On the Couch. I know we've been in hiatus for a little while. We had a lot going on. You know how life is, but we are back, and I definitely have some exciting news. I have some new co-hosts here. You are going to meet one of our new co-hosts, Mark Lee. Very, very influential. He is well-knowledged and versed in being a podcaster, radio co-host. So we are so excited to have him on. We also have some other new co-hosts as well, but they'll be missing this show this week. But hey, they're going to catch up with us in about 2 weeks. So I'm going to bring my co-hosts on. We have an exciting person coming on today, Minister Paul Scott. He's also an activist. We will be talking about Black Hoodie Brigade stresses books over bullets. So we're going to be delving into that conversation this morning. So I'm going to be bringing on my hosts right now, Mark Lee and Toya. How you all doing this morning? And I'm glad we're catching up.
I'm doing good. Everything's wonderful over here in Durham, North Carolina. As your husband knows, I work at a cultural arts center, so I'm actually here with some kids and everything. So the Hayti Heritage Center has got their weekend camp going on, so they're actually having a conversation downstairs where they're learning about tech jobs and all of those kind of things, because too often we don't encourage our folks to go into the STEM field. So there's actually a young lady that wrote a book about that, and she's actually on a Zoom call with the kids, and I think the youngest might be around 5 and the oldest might be around 17 or 18, but they definitely do this every Saturday, and they were actually doing some dance moves. I thought I was going to have to go out there and bust a move as well, but I don't have those kind of moves that those young people got. So I was like, that's all right. I'll let them do their moves and everything, because they were moving at a much better pace than I can move.
Hey, when you're young, you can do that. When we get older, we can't move like we used to. And you find that out when you get on the floor. You're like, oh, wait a minute now. Wait a minute. I know I can't move like I used to, but I try.
Yeah, you're in your mind. You start moving and you hear crack, crack. Okay. Thank you for the reminder. But Pilates has helped me. So for your old folks, you have to stay stretched and limber to protect those bones.
Yes, you really do. I agree. I totally agree. So, since we've been on hiatus and revamping On the Couch, again, I'm so excited about On the Couch and having people join us. But since that time, we have now in dealing with a new regime in the White House. I know you all have seen it. I know you all have. Do you have a reaction, and what is your reaction? Because I am totally, I don't even know what to say. I'm astonished. That's all. That's one word.
Yeah, astonishment is a good word and everything, and it can be very scary, because every time I turn around, I'm a fan of the arts, a fan of the cultural arts and everything, and I'm going like, wait a minute. So this man had come in there and basically fired the entire Lincoln Theater and is going to start his own version of the Lincoln Theater, and now they're talking about he wants to take over the post office. So like you said, every time you turn around, he's doing something else and everything. I know that y'all are up there in the Northeast, and I understand that Eric Adams has given him access to Rikers to put some of our immigrant brothers and sisters in and everything, and then he's also got some access to Guantanamo Bay. So definitely is a lot of craziness going on, and every time you turn around, there's a new executive order. I'm not sure whether he's spending more time doing executive orders or on the golf course. It's a close race, but he's doing both of those.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I didn't know that he was trying to take over the post office. See, I'm really trying to avoid listening to anything he's doing. I didn't know that part. I knew about, you know, taking over the treasury with Elon Musk. I know he's tried other things as well. You know, firing the people from the FBI. That's another issue that I have. Like, how do you do that? Also, the planes are not landing as they're supposed to because they have less people working. That's dangerous.
It definitely is. And just to kind of piggyback on the post office. So I went in there the other day, there was 2 workers. So at one point, someone popped in and he demanded for his stuff to be scanned. She said, it's only 2 of us here. She's on break. So he proceeded. And then when she looked at the stuff, it was from East Orange. We're located in Franklin Park. She said, actually, I could just refuse the packages. So you already know what the North in the inner city what the post offices look at like, but now you're going to actually force them. So the lady said, come on now, I've been here all day. So it was a long line, and all I wanted was something to be mailed out of state. So this is what we're looking for, but folks don't understand. And then to have the audacity to have packages from another city. Yes, but he didn't look like you or I.
Yep.
No.
And he just fired a general, and it was one of the brother generals. He just fired him. I think it was earlier today and everything. So like you said, every time he turned around, he's doing something else crazy. And all along those lines, I was glad. I don't know how y'all felt about it, but I'm a fan of Gil Scott-Heron. So I actually enjoyed the halftime show when we had that a couple of weeks ago and everything, because Kendrick Lamar was actually doing an ode to Gil Scott-Heron by saying that said the revolution will not be televised, which was the Gil Scott-Heron song. He said the revolution will be televised. So he's saying that, hey, folks, wake up, and if you got to stand up to this madness, let's stand up to the madness.
And we have to.
Like us.
We have to stand up to it. We have to. We don't have a choice. If we don't band together, it's going to turn even worse. And I think people don't realize, I know I voted for the Black lady. Okay, I did. I can tell you, I'm proud that I did vote for her. I feel that Kamala was going to make some significant changes that we really needed in our life, because, you know, she was offering a lot more than what this clown is doing, you know. And I'm sorry, I have to say, he's a clown to me, because he's never going to follow through. This is all about what he's going to get from America, from us, how he's going to steal everything, because he's technically stealing everything, us blind. He's robbing us blind. And that's my concern. And then he has Elon Musk helping him do it. And that's my other issue as well. So, you know, I don't know what else we can do but band together. But you have all of these, and I have to go to my Hispanic community. Not everybody in the Hispanic community voted for him, but a large amount of you have. Do you see what is happening now? Now your family members are being sent back. People that were here, your children are at risk. Now here it is. He has Mayor Adams getting ready to clean out or rearrange Rikers Island so he can put people in there. Do y'all not understand the damage that's getting ready to happen? Children are going to be abandoned because they're not going to have their parents. And that's the danger. That's the danger of the whole thing.
It's a whole infrastructure breakdown. And just to think, for me, I work with folks and we do residential mental health services. Prior to that, they closed all the psychiatric hospitals, right? So now they provided the services to us. I just had witnessed a staff that was attacked, and he said, I will kill you. This is during the Valentine's holiday. So then now I'm looking at the follow-up report. He just said, I wanted a hug. It was Valentine's Day. So imagine cutting our funding. Now these folks will be homeless. They will be on the street. So the initiative was to cut the funding in the hospitals because, you know, everything is high priced. So now they pay us a certain rate. We lost because we had contracted. Now we're fee for service. So how much can you cut? So now that's another system that will be broken down, and their crime rates will increase. And then on my closing note on that is in the stores, in the grocery stores. So now these people are deported. Who's going to ensure that our dairy and all our things are properly managed? Because the people who are American don't want to work those jobs. They call it grunt jobs. I don't want to do that. So now it's just listening to people, because I know folks who are managers at a local Walmart. And now if you go in there and look, make sure you look at the dates, because some of them may not understand to put the farther date in the front, in the back, and that way. So now they're messing up with produce. So there's a lot of things that these folks work and they contribute to the American dream. So let's just sit back and watch. I call it my mental popcorn, and see how this is going to unfold. This is not The Apprentice. The America is not The Apprentice show. So
No,
that's all I have to say on the matter.
Yeah, it's not The Apprentice show, and you bring up a good quote, Miss Toya, and everything, because one of the things that I've been thinking about is this notion of he swore up and down that the economy was going to be one of the things he was going to deal with when he came into office and everything. And, you know, the price of eggs is still up there. Everything else is still up there. And it's probably going to continue to rise and all along those lines, because a lot of the folks that work those jobs are the ones that are being deported. So they're the ones that are working in the farm jobs out there in Texas and California, right where I'm at here in North Carolina. A lot of those folks are the migrant folks that are doing those kind of jobs. And you're right. You try to ask a brother or sister to go in those and work those jobs, and they go look at you cross-eyed, just like they look at you cross-eyed and try to get them to do some of the construction jobs.
So, you know, what we do too, Mark, so, you know, we like to go to the comments, and we love our commenters, and we read their comments, and I'm going to read a comment in a second. Also, you all, the new part of On the Couch, so you're able to talk to us too. We do have a phone number that you can call in on now too. The number is 609-614-0687. That number again is 609-614-0687, and it will be going across a banner shortly. All right, so let me turn to the comment real quickly before we go into bringing in our guest. Be careful what you ask for. When it comes, it will come in another form that what you thought it would be. That's right. It is in a whole different form. This is what you asked for, America. Now what? What you going to do? You know, what are you going to do? This is what you wanted. So all I can say is let's prepare like it's doomsday. So folks need to go out, start, you know, I don't know. Go ahead and get yourself a little shelter, get ready, because it's going to be some stuff. It's going to be some stuff that hopefully we can bounce back from. I don't know who would be the person behind him, but they want him to go another 4 years, you know, but he shouldn't be able to do that because he already was president once.
Correct.
Yeah.
That's really what he's doing. And they said that I don't know if he idolizes Adolf Hitler. But if you read up on that, and I just said I can't read anymore because right now I'm not trying to have that trauma on me, because I have seen and read in history books, but just wake up. We do have a voice. And if you don't vote, you're part of the negative. On paper, we looked good. And I went out and helped the elderly, and then folks who did not vote, that means that you're abstaining answered. That's all.
Simple as that. But we're going to shift gears now. We're going to talk about something else exciting, you know. So, Mark, I'm going to hand this over to you because you're going to introduce this extraordinary person that joined us this morning. So, if you don't mind taking over from here.
No, I don't mind at all. Like I said, it was my pleasure to reach out to Minister Paul Scott. And by the way, y'all don't know this, neither you, Dr. Diamond, or Miss Toya, but Minister Scott has been in the news a number of times. He's actually taken on and debated none other than Sean Hannity a couple of times, and actually he held his own against Sean Hannity and all along those lines. But he also, you know, a lot of times we have situations where there are certain things that are brought into our society that are detrimental to our society. And I'm not going to say that I don't have an occasional beer and occasional liquor and everything, but we do know that they can sometimes target our community and all along those lines. So he right now is stressing books over bullets, but many years ago, he stressed this idea of trying to make sure that the liquor companies weren't overread in our hood neighborhoods, whether that was in the Northeast, where I know the two of you are, or whether that's down here in the South, where me and Minister Scott are, and all along those lines. But definitely he tackled the liquor industry and made sure that they understood that he understood what they were doing in terms of damaging our kids by targeting a lot of the ABC stores in our neighborhoods. It's not an accident that ABC stores are in the Black and brown communities and all along those lines. So that is something that he's done in the past, and he's definitely targeted even some of the sugars that are out there as well, because we know that they also love to send the sodas and other things that are not good for us as well. And I'd be lying if I said that I am not guilty of loving sweet tea and some of the other things that are processed sugars that are in our lines as well. But right now he's got a new group called the Black Hoodie Brigade, and they are stressing this idea of books over bullets. So definitely, we need to make sure that our young people understand that they don't have to be worried about those fancy shoes and all along those lines and fighting each other over that and all along those lines. And he's even found ways to unify some people. I mentioned Kendrick Lamar and everything earlier, and we saw that in that halftime show that there was the Bloods and the Crips that were being represented, that were together in that whole display and everything. And Minister Scott has also dealt with some of the gangs, even some of the gangs right here in Durham, North Carolina, and found that they have some common ground and that they don't always have to see each other as enemies. So it's my pleasure to introduce my longtime friend and a noted activist here in the community, Minister Paul Scott, who has done some great work, and I consider him a friend and an ally in a lot of these struggles. And I'm sure he's got some thoughts about what's going on in the space of our political landscape. Because even here in this area, we've got a mayor that's been very big on construction, in trying to do some construction even in some of our neighborhoods and all along those lines. But there are also some new people that are coming out that might be running against them, including the daughter of the former mayor, and all along those lines. I might try to get Anjanae to come on one of these shows as well and everything, and as well as our current mayor, who is a fan of the Bidens and all along those lines. But I'd love to hear what Minister Scott's got to say about the state of our politics and his efforts on what he's doing with the books over bullets, because he's out there literally every day. I think the man gets up at about, I don't know, because y'all are Northerners and everything, but you got some roots in the South, and you've heard that notion of getting up with the roosters. I'm pretty sure that's what Minister Scott does. He gets up with the roosters in order to actually get the word out. And I'm pretty sure that he's up at like 5 or 6 because he wants to make sure that he reaches those young people, and he might be out there till practically midnight. So like I said, he's up with the roosters, but going until the midnight hour, if I can use that blues term, and everything like that. So he is definitely putting in the hours to get this change done. But I'll let him speak to what he's got going on, particularly with this Books Over Bullets campaign. But like I said, if you want to talk about a man that is dedicated to the work and is not afraid to tackle difficult conversations, that's, in my mind, my longtime friend, Minister Paul Scott. He says that I'm the only one that gets him on these podcasts. So I don't know what's the matter with the rest of these podcasters. They don't understand the wisdom that he's got and all along those lines.
So I am going to bring Minister Scott in. Also, real quickly, I'd like to introduce one of our other special co-hosts that we do have. She is a nurse, so she'll be chiming in on our Health Minute. So I wanted to introduce our nurse here, Beverly Hale. She will be listening in, and she'll be asking Minister Scott some questions as well, because that will also help, get that out there in the health world also. But without further ado, let's introduce, of course, Minister Scott, who is an activist, and we're going to bring him on in. Welcome.
Greetings. Honored to be here. Mark, thank you for inviting me. Mark doesn't know, but he's been an influence on me. His family actually has been an influence on me radio-wise since I was 14 years old. I don't think he even knows that.
Yeah. I was not aware of that. I did know that you've been following the family tradition, and I know that you're also a big supporter, and many people, including some of Dr. Diamond's audience, may not know this, but my dad, in addition to having that radio station in the 70s, way back in the late 60s, we actually had a Malcolm X University right here in Durham, North Carolina, and they were one of the founders of that university. As a matter of fact, Malik, my younger brother, who is 55 last year and everything, so he'll be turning 56 this year in October. He was actually born on that dedication of that day. So mom had to go rush to the hospital on that day of that dedication. So it literally would have been on October 26th that they dedicated it, and it was on, as you know, didn't have a long history. It was here and then in Greensboro, and then eventually it closed down. But there's a lot of people that are fans of the Malcolm X legacy, even right here in Durham, North Carolina.
Awesome. So, well, we got your background. I'm very interested in how did you begin advocacy? Like what I heard what Mark said, but I want to hear from you. Like what was this for you? What was the trigger that said it's something, I got to do this. I got to make some change. I got to get out of here and help my people. What was it?
Well, coming out of college, North Carolina Central, during the George Bush era, 1980, 88, 1990, jobs were scarce. I don't know if you all talk about how bad times are now. Jobs were scarce in 89 and 90. So my passion was to go on the radio. I used to intern and work part-time at a local radio station back in the conscious age of hip hop, because I'm a hip hop head, 88, 89. And I really wanted to go on the radio, That didn't happen. So in between trying to find out how I'm going to eat, I started hitting the library. I've been a reader since I was little. Grandma made me read. Mama made me read, would buy me all these books. But as far as the conscious stuff, when I didn't have anything but time on my hands, I used to go to the library. When I moved back to Durham, even Stanford L. Warren Library on Feather Street, which is, Mark, I think it's the oldest or second oldest Black library in the state.
It's definitely up there and everything. I can't remember the exact, but it's definitely in the ranks of being one of the oldest, or in that lineage that you're talking about. As you know, my grandmother actually founded the library in Raleigh, the Richard B. Harrison Library. So she was actually the founder of that library, which is the Black library there in Raleigh. And she literally knocked on the door collecting money, because there was at a time, I want to say around the 40s, that folks were not trying to support a lot of our causes and everything like that. Hey, Mr. Scott, just really quickly, and this kind of plays to what Dr. Diamond was asking about advocacy, but there was a major part of advocacy that I think has been overlooked in a lot of ways, and that's the Black bookstore and everything like that. So I know that there have been some major Black bookstores in the New Jersey, New York area where the other hosts are from and everything like that. But we had the No Bookstore here with Minister Bruce Bridges and all along those lines and everything like that. But I'm just wondering your thoughts about the importance of the Black bookstores, because the No Bookstore, I know a lot of people got their Sister Soldier books. They got a lot of their other activism books by going down there to that No Bookstore.
Yeah, and that was the next phase of my development. When I started reading all the library books, that got me inspired. I started reading about Huey P. Newton. I started studying the Black Panther. I started studying Malcolm X, reading everything I could get my hands on. Then 92, I discovered I started frequenting the No Bookstore in 1992 with Dr. Bruce Bridges. And through that bookstore, as Mark was alluding to, I was able to meet and have conversations with Steve Coakley, Dr. Shaka Musabera Shango, Rabbi Ben Ami. I was able to sit right next to Kwame Ture for 90 minutes doing a radio interview based on that bookstore, because that bookstore used to have study groups every Thursday night. And everybody who is somebody in the Black conscious community used to come through the bookstore. So those who hung around the bookstore, we got to meet our heroes and sheroes firsthand. So yeah, shout out to Dr. Bruce Bridges and his cultural awareness seminar radio program. I used to be a regular up there because in 92, having a background in hip hop, people, the elders, they were into Earth, Wind, and Fire. They were into Gil Scott-Heron. So here comes this other dude who was influenced by Public Enemy and X-Clan. Those were my influences. So they said, okay, we'll handle the pyramids. We'll handle Kemet. We'll handle the Kushite Empire. You deal with hip hop. So that was the role I inherited, and later became a hip hop writer for All Hip Hop and other venues, ER Web, the Radio Scope people, and other venues. Yeah. So that's my beginning.
Beautiful.
Just really quickly. I'm sorry.
No, I just wanted to say I just got really excited about it because just to do a tidbit, at that time, I was a Martin Luther King player, 89 until I graduated. And so they would do the Southern tour. Louis Dunbar, he was someone that went to Shaw University, and that's something that we would do oracle, public speaking, what would Black people do. Martin Luther King's I Had a Dream speech, and we would tour those colleges. And from there, they would have the Black high school students do their interviews on the spot. But now I go back to my community. They don't have that. The children have nothing to do. But that's where I got my knowledge and understanding what you're speaking to us about. Because now I have family members who are educators, and they are rewriting our history. So this is why we need to make sure that these books are out there. You have to think we have a lot of mulattoes. So now look at these children, mixed backgrounds. Oh, so when I went to the teachers conference last year, they have it yearly in Atlantic City, and Governor Murphy was speaking about that. Spike Lee was in the audience. I got to listen to Spike Lee. And that's basically, and I never thought that he was that grounded. Then I Googled and I said, oh, Spike Lee is really into education. Because now they're watering down our history. It's more so that they brought us here to help with the cultivation of the land. That's not what it is. They're taking away our true history. So now these kids that are coming up, if they don't read these books, how are they going to know the truth of what we did? Slavery, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Hey, Minister Scott, just really quickly, because I kind of alluded to it, and I know we definitely got to get to your current project, but can you tell these ladies a little bit about that battle? Because not many people were bold enough to take on the liquor company. And like I said, when you came and spoke to Kwanzaa, you took them on, and you did not pull back any punches when you took on the liquor company, because they've definitely done some horrible things to our youth and where they target our young people. So I just wondered if you could just explain that battle, because you was one of the few people that were willing to take on what the liquor companies have been doing to our community.
Yeah, I got PTSD behind that too, brother. Low key. But shout out to Tish in the comments. She said Stanford L. Warren is the second oldest library. Tish, who is head of the Black Creative Brigade Fact Attack, our social media arm. Thanks for that information, Tish. Second oldest. But yeah, the liquor company wars. They play dirty. And when I say I have see a lot of people, I understand now why the elders who were in the Black Panther Party, who trained me like Brother Tata, a lot of them don't like to talk about what they went through, because that stuff keeps you up at night, because you're like, how did I survive that? But those liquor companies, they play dirty. I first got inspired to go after the 40-ounce malt liquor people. I was watching, because, as a hip-hop head, I was watching BT and Pump It Up and these video shows with the hip-hop artists. And they started using all these rappers. Every hot rapper, St. Ives Malt Liquor, would use in videos on Saturday morning. When your children, excuse me, I get passionate about this because I risk my life.
No problem.
When your children, you think your children are there watching cartoons, 11 o'clock on Saturday morning, they're watching Wu-Tang and EPMD and Snoop and Dog Pound. They even had the not conscious rappers, but people now in retrospect, you consider conscious. Rakim.
KRS-One.
No,
Yes.
KRS didn't do St. Ives.
Well,
KRS-One did Sprite. He was pretty. Him and Chuck are exempt from the malt liquor discussion, but a lot of those cats, they were heavily promoted by St. Ives. So I was outraged in 1992, and I went on a battle against the malt liquor industry because I saw what was happening. I love hip hop, and I saw how they were using the music. I love that energy to put poison in the community. So around 19, but I was just doing things like writing letters to the editor, writing letters to magazines, taking little pot shots at them. But I really got involved around 1996, 1997, when I read Coach Alfred Powell's book, The 40-Ounce Scandal. and he started breaking down the symbolism of the malt liquor. He took that route in the bottles and what this represents, and that intrigued me. So that gave me even more energy. So I started going after the liquor companies. I started going after St. Ives. I would call into BET, because one thing I used to do to get my message out in the 90s, when you used to could call into BET, like Teen Summit and Tavis Smiley Show, all you had to do was call in 5 minutes before the show started, save the 800 number, and get right through. So I would go on BT and start bashing St. Ives. It was guerrilla activism. I started running liquor trucks out the neighborhood. I went up against something called Fat Boy Malt Liquor, where it was made with ginseng. They were using posters of young black males and young black females on their posters. They put ginseng in it to make it seem like it was healthy. And they put graffiti on the bottle. They play dirty. A reporter who has not been seen since busted Coors for actually signing the contract to put this malt liquor in the black community. You know, Coors doesn't even mess with black people. Mm-hmm. But when they found out about this, nobody heard from that reporter since. They play dirty. The attorneys would call my house and leave a message. I never returned, talking about we have a mutual interest. I would never return their call because the elders taught me, what you going to talk to why you going to talk to a devil? What y'all going to talk about? So I would never return their calls, but they would call my house talking about we have a mutual interest. But I kept fighting and finally took Fat Boy Malt Liquor off the shelves. But talking about politically, Coors, we talk about Project 2025, right? Mm-hmm. Heritage Foundation, read The Power of Ideas, a book called The Power of Ideas. We talk about the Heritage Foundation who did Project 19. That's Coors money. That's Coors beer money. So y'all out here talking about head to the mountains and drinking Coors beer and watching the commercial. Coors, that family funded originally the Heritage Foundation, who in 2025 brings you Project 2025.
Wow.
Wow.
And that's what I was trying to get into. I'm sorry. In reference to is I see it as targeted marketing. Mm-hmm. So I threw out KRS-One's name of it because he's positive. And I'm just thinking back then, they'll blend everything together, right? Because if you see everything negative, it's not going to fly. So all I know is that in that era, you have this one. Now you're explaining something different and you're mixing it in. So as a parent, what do? You cannot sit there and watch your children and everything that they're looking at. So you have something thrown in there, you're cooking, then they're seeing that. Then these children go and then they go out into the world and they start discussing things. And the only reason, not to change gears, my niece, 10 years old, Mom, what do you think about this Diddy thing? Do you understand what I'm saying to you? So imagine little minds. You're giving them something positive, something negative, and you're fitting it through. And then that's where it comes through the airways. So that's what I'm hearing from you. So I just want, if you want to go into that a little bit further, but I think that's why they're infiltrating certain things in the airways, what we're listening to, voiceovers. And this is just something, as me being active in my niece's life, they'll have a video on YouTube. You're seeing a child and then you'll have a voiceover. So we need to wake up. And I just wanted to throw that out because now you have a lot of great points. You're bringing me back to the late 80s, early 90s.
Hey, just really quickly, just really quickly along those same lines and everything, because we talked about this before, and people think that it is something new or that it's something that's just now happening, but it's been happening for a while. So, Minister Scott, could you talk about, because I think you might have been one of those that was targeted, if I can go there and be bold and say everything, but people think that COINTELPRO is an old thing and that activists are not targeted even to this day and everything. But I would argue that even some of the activists were targeted even under Barack and under definitely under Trump. But could you talk about how activists are still targeted these days?
Yeah, let me answer Sister Joy's question. I'm so glad we have mental health professionals up here, because we are the most studied people on the planet. They know our every moves. They program us to behave in certain ways, but there are only a handful of Black psychiatrists, statistically speaking, that have dealt with the race problem. Kenneth Clark, who gave us the Black Doll program, and he wrote the book Dark Ghetto that everybody should read. He gave us the Black Doll, and his wife gave the Black Doll experiment, where they put the black doll and the white doll in front of Black children. They chose the white doll because they said the black doll was ugly. Dr. Bobby E. Wright, psychopathic racial personality. Dr. Francis Cress Welton, the ISIS papers. Dr. Joyce DeGruy, post-traumatic slavery syndrome. But there are only a few, relatively few books about Black psychology. So when you get your hands on Black mental health, Black psychology, pick up those books. Again, we are the most studied people. And these marketing companies, that's who they employ. That's who they employ. We get into hip hop later, but they know the rhythm. They know the way the rhythm hits us. Like they used to say back in the day, let the rhythm hit them. They know how it vibrates in our bodies. They know how it taps into our culture. But because we have not studied Black psychology, we don't know. We think Serena is just out there crip walking just to be dancing. No, it's deeper than that.
She's a figure.
Indeed. But brother Mark's point, and this is relative to our discussion, whatever you want to call it, COINTELPRO, counterintelligence program. Read Kenneth O'Reilly's book, Racial Matters. Kenneth O'Reilly, Racial Matters. He has probably the most thorough book on COINTELPRO. Kenneth O'Reilly, Racial Matters. But COINTELPRO, counterintelligence program. Think about that. Counterintelligence program that the FBI used against the Black Panthers. J. Edgar Hoover used against Malcolm X. J. Edgar Hoover used against Martin Luther King. And anybody who was standing up against Vietnam, anybody who was standing up for Black rights, became victim of COINTELPRO. In 1968, that's when they started the special Black Hate Division. Black Hate Division, where they really target the Black Panther Party. We talk about gangs and who've been going on for 30 years, and people say, what can we do about the gangs, and what can we do about this, and what can we do about that? When the Black Panther Party, Huey, Afeni, Bobby, Little Bobby, Eldridge, when they were targeted under COINTELPRO, and J. Edgar Hoover said, we're going to wipe them out, along with Richard Nixon, they neutralized. That was the word they used. They neutralized the Black Panther Party in 4 years. They get rid of who they want to get rid of.
Yes, they do.
Around who they want to keep around.
They want us to kill ourselves. That's really what it is.
Kill ourselves, self-inflicted genocide. But we don't study COINTELPRO. It's too painful for too many to mention. And they didn't, although the program technically ended in 1972, I believe it was 1972 or 1976. 1972. They just changed the name. That Black identity extremist movement from 5-6 years ago, COINTELPRO, a different name.
They just changed the name. We do have some comments. I saw that and everything. So
yeah, we do. We got a lot.
Yes.
So you definitely get some interesting thoughts. I don't know if you want to get to those, but I do have another quick question for you, Minister Scott, because it's something that I know the ladies will be interested in, and it comes back to our psychology and everything like that. But could you talk about a little bit about the misogyny that exists, unfortunately, in our society and all along those lines, and how sometimes it is this us against them kind of attitude that they have done between Black men and Black women and everything, because I know that there's a passionate conversation of yours and everything.
Yeah, and we defend it. It's cute and again, I'm a hip hop head. People are complaining about Snoop Dogg and him supporting Trump or performing at the not supporting Trump, excuse me, performing at a gala after the inauguration. People talk about Snoop and Nelly. Oh, we're outraged. Were you outraged in 1996 or so when Snoop Dogg brought the black women on stage at the MTV Awards with dog collars on? Were you upset?
Yep.
Now you're mad at Nelly. When I was fighting Nelly over pimp juice because of the negative connotation back in 2000, I was fighting Nelly over pimp juice. You can Google it. It's still there. People defended Nelly. It's nothing wrong with being a pimp. You know pimps abuse women. It's nothing wrong with being a pimp. When Nelly had that video Tip Drill and swiped the credit card on BT, what was it? BT, the BT show used to come on 3 o'clock.
After dark. It was like after dark or something like that.
Yeah. He swiped the credit card through the woman's behind. When you outraged over that, we have selective outrage.
Yes, we do.
I agree. As somebody is hot and popping,
right,
they can get away with anything. If R. Kelly made a hit gospel record right now, he would be accepted. If Diddy came back and did a Kendrick Lamar, shout out to Kendrick Lamar, no disrespect. If Diddy came out right now and joined with Mustard, DJ Mustard, and did a Kendrick Lamar remix, we would love him. We forget about everything. We're fickle, y'all.
Well, the R. Kelly music, they still play it. I go to events, they're still playing.
I mean, think about it. If you're not outraged over Diddy and you cut out you say we ain't gonna play nothing connected with Diddy, you know that's half the 3/4 of the hip hop from the 90s.
The catalog.
That's the
that will eliminate the 90s. Yes, it would. It would.
So we upset, just not that much.
But like you said, it's selective. So you know what I'm curious about too, though, and I'm just going to refer to your black hoodie that you have on. So black hoodie versus black leather jackets, because the Black Panther Party, they were identified by their berets and the black jackets, but you chose the hoodie. So I would like to delve into that a little bit more for our listeners. Is there a correlation there? How did you come up with that?
Yeah, it's the Black Hoodie Brigade is inspired by the Black Panther political educational courses. Are going out in the streets, going out in the hood to actually teach people face to face, passing out free books, doing Black history. So yeah, it was definitely inspired. But as far as the Black hoodie, leather jackets now, what, $100 and some, maybe $150, $200?
Yes.
Hoodies are $9.
That's right.
Everybody can't go out and buy
a
black leather jacket. I mean, it looks good, but hoodies are $9.
Yes.
Everybody has and most people already have a black hoodie. Lil Wayne, I'm not a big Lil Wayne fan, but you know, he had a couple of lyrics. Lil Wayne on that song with Beyonce and Destiny's Child, he had a lyric to say, I blend in with the hood, I'm camouflaged.
Yes.
So
Soldier.
Yeah, Soldier, that's it. Yeah, if I blend in with the hood, I'm camouflaged. So if you are doing this work, especially in 2025, you want to blend in with the hood. You don't want them to know how many members you have and who's really rocking with the ideology. Everybody you see in Durham in certain neighborhoods with a black hoodie, they might be Black Hoodie Brigade, they might not be. Ask them. That's
you know,
like a brother Steve Coakley used to say, we got what we got and we got what they think we got.
That's right.
Yep.
That's right. I tell you what, wearing the black hoodie, the black jacket, it signifies something that you're standing for something.
Mhm.
And, when people don't understand that, it's just exactly what you were talking about earlier. It's the fear is the biggest part. So when you had J. Edgar Hoover and the FBI and, even some presidents, you can't say those presidents were not involved with taking down our leaders, because they were.
Almost, yeah.
They, when they don't understand something, you said this in the beginning, they will destroy it,
Mhm.
and they will
Right.
find ways to do it. So I'm saying to our listeners and everybody, even our community, open a book, because the knowledge is there. When you have that book closed and it's just sitting there, oh, that's what it's going to do. It is going to sit there because you're not opening up for the knowledge. You need it. Knowledge is power. You're not going to know anything without reading it. And then if you don't want to read it, get on the YouTube and listen to some documentaries about who we
Yes.
are as a people, because you can hear it. If you don't want to read it, listen to it. As we're listening to you today, Minister, this is very important, that even though if a person don't want to open these books that you advised us to read, then go and listen to it. Dr. DeGury, she has so many videos on post-traumatic slave syndrome. That is very important for us to understand how it goes from one generation to the next, how we will understand fear, how they came up with these irrational logic things that they came up with. These scientists, they didn't know what they were dealing with. Okay, but you're dealing with God's children. That's why you can't identify what's up with us. And I'm just keeping it real. Our bodies is what they use, because they don't understand how we function the way we do. Okay,
Hey,
the simple thing is melanin. Okay, and I'm gonna leave it right there.
You got to read Dr. Francis Cress Welson's book, The ISIS Papers, Fear of White Genetic Annihilation. That's a must read. If you've seen the movie Baby Boy, that opening scene, he quotes Dr. Francis Cress Welson. If you've seen Boomerang, a lot of people missed that. If you've seen Boomerang, when when Martin Lawrence is talking about the white ball knocking all the other balls off the table, that's Dr. Francis Cress Welson. But you mentioned the presidents. Let me get there for a minute, because people, we don't really do history. You think stuff just happens. There's always a president. You're looking at the man in the White House right now. Go back. Ronald Reagan, Richard Nixon. He's just the next phase with the same agenda. The names change, but the players stay the same. I'm going to say it again. The names change, but the players stay the same. We talk about the crack in the community. We talk about the guns in the community. If you ever get a chance, this book used to be $5, $10. Well, at the most $15. There's a book that now costs $400 online, if you can find it, called Dark Alliance by Gary Webb.
Oh, wow.
Dark Alliance by Gary Webb. I tried to find that book online. It's like $200, $300, $400. It used to be $10, $15. This book by Gary Webb, who allegedly committed suicide by shooting himself twice in the head. How does that happen?
How does
Allegedly,
twice in the head, like he went like.
Well, how does that happen?
Hey, Minister Scott, along those same lines, like I said, I'm not knocking our leadership, because we had some positive leadership, but I still got some questions about who some people say was the one of our black presidents, if you think that he had soul and all along those lines. But I'm sorry, didn't we have a Treasury Secretary that mysteriously died on a plane, and nobody really has explained to me what happened with Ron Brown and everything along those lines? Because that seems very questionable to me, that you just go mysteriously have a shot, and it seems to me like the shot trajectory didn't even make any sense the way that they described it and everything like that. So that took place under the Clinton watch and everything like that. So that's been under different watches that some crazy things have happened. But Mr. Scott, I do have a question for you based on what we're talking about and everything. Well, a couple of questions. One is, I know a lot of people that are going to get DNA tests and everything along those lines, but a lot of these DNA tests are maintained out of white societies and everything. So if the sample is white, doesn't that cause a problem with the DNA test? Because I know a lot of people will come back, they can be as dark as they want to be, and they'll come back and they'll tell you that they got 1/10 German, 1/10 Italian, 1/10 whatever. And I'm going like, well, the sample is from a European country. So if the sample's from Europe, isn't that automatically going to make part of the DNA also European? Maybe it's just me and my things to make too much logical sense.
Yeah, let me address that. Now I'm gonna get back to my point about Reagan, but I don't know too much about DNA. But all I know is that for all my life, for 50 something years of my life, I was told that my great great grandmother was 50% Cherokee, and my granddaddy was 100% Lumbee. I got my DNA test back 1%. My whole life has been a lie.
So what did it come out as? If you're saying it's a contradictory to what your heritage said, if you
my heritage said I was all these people were Native American, indigenous people.
Yeah.
I got my DNA 1%. So, but yeah, so that's my thoughts on the DNA thing. But as far as what I was saying about Ronald Reagan, they complain about all the black kids in the community selling drugs and all these crack dealers. Ronald Reagan, George Bush, under that regime, as talked about in Dark Alliance, they either, and this ain't alleged, they would either, the CIA was either complicit or involved in bringing crack cocaine into South Central America.
Absolutely.
They were either complicit or involved. Gary Ware wrote a 5-page expose in the San Jose Mercury News around 1995, 1996. It's not online anymore. Why is that? Again, suicide two times in the head. And people glorify Freeway Rick Ross, not the rapper, but the guy he got his name from, who made millions of dollars. He said millions of dollars a day. I don't know. But yet he says he didn't know. He said he was an innocent victim. Make that make sense.
But isn't that part of the reason that, in my mind, that a certain person is in charge wants Canada and wants Mexico? And I do admire the Mexican president that is standing up against him and all along those lines. But it does seem like if you control that corridor, you can control a lot of the drugs coming, because just to be very clear, fentanyl comes from Canada and a lot of the drugs are coming up from Mexico and South America and everything like that, and Central America. So I'm thinking that that's the real reason that the person that's in office, number 47, that was also 45, wants that control. But what is your thoughts on that, Minister Scott?
We want to blame little Raheem and little Tyrone on the corner for the drug trade. It's bigger than them, from New Jack City. It's bigger than Nino Brown. Go back and watch that scene of New Jack City when he's on the witness stand. It's bigger than Nino Brown. Dead Prayers, the hip hop group, told us back in 2000. It's bigger than hip hop. But we don't want to deal with these respectable.
Frank Lucas, another one, Frank Lucas.
Yeah, all that New York scene, but we don't want to deal with these respectable people, so-called respectable people, who are sending their children and grandchildren to college off the death of your children.
Yep.
Because at some point, morality goes out the window. It's just business. But they want to point at the black teens, and they should be criticized for contributing to the genocide of our people. Don't get me wrong. But if we're talking about the science of supply and demand, and we're talking about the supply, it goes all the way up to the government.
Hey, Minister Scott, doesn't it even go up to the real president and everything like that? Because let's be very clear and everything, because we have this person that's in office, but there's another person that is showing that he is the puppet master, but all along those lines. But isn't Elon Musk part of the apartheid government? Because that's what I've always thought and everything like that. But what's your take on this? Because Elon Musk did come from South Africa. So what's your take on this?
See, Mark wants to get me into the conspiracy theories. And they're not really conspiracy theories. Mark's trying to drag me. Every time I try to get out, they drag me back in. Scarface. But yeah, do I believe there's a shadow government? Of course there is. Of course there is. There is a shadow government. What you're seeing now is that shadow government saying, well, we got spaceships now. We have reached the epitome of world power. We are the new world order. See, in early 90s, people used to talk about the new world order, the new world order. Well, now the new world order's been here since 2001. What you gonna do about it? See, we talked about the new world order, but when it came, we were
9/11. That's what you're speaking of. You just 2001 was when 9/11 was.
Yeah, the Patriot.
So you say in New York. So can you? I can hear you.
We can hear you.
About the Patriot Act.
She was talking about the 9/11. So about referring to what the conspiracy might have been there.
Yeah. The Patriot. No, I'm just saying that's when they released the Patriot Act.
Okay.
And what the Patriot Act did was it took so many civil rights away that people had no control over their lives. Surveillance now that they talked about under COINTELPRO was now legal. It was sanctioned. And some of those Patriot Act things are still in place today. We talk about even in the local government, because all politics is local. There used to be something called, and this is just going back to the things we don't know that's going on. In Durham and other cities, California, Michelle Alexander talks about in the New Jim Crow. There's something called GangNet. GangNet, a lot of parents don't know about it. But there's something called GangNet, and Cali is called something else, where they could track your child who appeared like he was in a gang and put his name in a database. And they were never clear, at least in Durham, how they came up with the criteria, how long the name stayed in the database. They weren't open with any of that, even as of right now. You ask the law enforcement, even as of last month, I asked law enforcement, is GangNet still active? I don't know.
What I was trying to say, Dr. Diamond and everyone on the call, distractions. So you said 2001. I just remember my son was born. And as you know, with these airplanes, right? So what I don't know if I have time in my life, because I want to really do some research. You have a national event and something that occurred that's considered a conspiracy theater is timelined. Have you noticed whenever there's something going on with the government, there's a distraction that comes out. All I know when I hear 2001, I think about the Twin Towers going on and different things. But what are we seeing? We're giving a headline, and that distracts us to what's actually going on.
Whose album came out 9/11, 2001?
Yep. So now have you done anything like that? Have a comparison, like a parallel?
Yeah. But the question I asked was who dropped the album on 9/11?
Who dropped the album on 9/11?
Albums. I have a little lag. I'm sorry. I'm trying to think.
That's okay.
Who dropped the album in 9/11?
Who's the most powerful person in hip hop right now?
Jay-Z.
He dropped the blueprint 9/11.
Yes, he did.
So regardless of what y'all are talking about,
he's been
the
very
whole world
quiet.
of chaos did not stop Blueprint from being dropped.
Illuminati, all of this that they're talking about is just, that's all I'm saying. A comparison. There's a lot of
Wait a minute, Minister Scott. You mean he dropped the album literally on 9/11, the day of the
Blueprint came out at the same time of the on 9/11.
Wow.
See, this is all I'm saying. I just would love to have time to do that.
That's the distraction. Yes,
distractions.
Wow.
Just think about it.
Yeah.
All the headlines of Diddy, and then all the stuff that's happening in the White House. It
all at the same time.
Targeted information, targeted headlines.
Yes.
Oh yeah, there's definitely targeted headlines. Hey, Mr. Scott, just really quickly, and this is not going down this conspiracy path that you say I'm trying to take you down, but what's your take on, because we talk about it all the time, and it's been talked about up and down the East Coast, all the way up to the West Coast, but what can we do and what can we do to stop the school to prison pipeline and everything like that? Because that is a
Good
very
question.
legitimate concern that people have, and it is a lot of private prisons that are out there. But what is your take on what we can do to stop our kids from being caught up in this school to prison pipeline?
First of
Mhm.
all, read Michelle Alexander's book, The New Jim Crow, for the
The New Jim
foundation in the background. Read
Mhm.
Jawanza Kunjufu's book, Conspiracy to Destroy Black Boys, because there was always a rumor in the Black community that they started tracking or destroying Black boys in the 4th grade.
Mhm.
If I look at my life, I was really hyper intelligent until the 4th grade. Then everything, the teachers started changing on me in the 4th grade. They used to say that by the 4th grade or after the 3rd grade, that's when they start tracking the prison beds based on how you act in the 3rd grade. I didn't believe that until right here in Durham a couple of years ago. They had a program called By a Factor of 3, where they actually publicly stated they were going to start tracking 3rd graders whose family dynamics might allow them to be in the game. They would track them beginning the 3rd grade. So it's true, brother. That's where we got to start, because they're tracking our children in elementary school. They're doing preemptive warfare as early as 3rd grade on our children, but they don't talk about it.
You don't talk about that at all. Jeremiah Duffy said we need to create our own schools again and our
Yeah.
banks also. And we're here in Durham, meaning you are, Minister Scott. And that is one of the Black Wall Streets, along with Central Park up there in New York, that people forget about, and Rosewood down there in Florida and Tulsa. But I've heard a number of people say that it's going to be impossible for us to create a new Black Wall Street in the year 2025 or 2026. What is your thoughts around that, and any of my fellow panelists? Because I've heard a number of people that have basically said that was then and you can't recreate that and everything. But I do think we got to start creating some of our own. But what's your take on that?
I think that money became God. And with integration, I don't know how that's going to be possible with integration. See, back during those days, we had no choice. We lived in the days of segregation. We had no choice but to do Black business because we weren't welcome anywhere else.
Right.
How that plays out when money becomes the focus and we don't have that cultural continuity, we don't have that race consciousness that Marcus Garvey talked about. I don't know how that plays out in 2025. Everybody's trying to get the money by any means necessary.
Yeah. I would like to add on to that is that I don't think, and I do agree with the comments too, that anything is possible. However, when we think about the Black and brown community, a lot of us are awakened to what is around us. Like you just said, Minister, we're conscious. Some of us are very conscious. A lot of us are still sleeping. So if they're still sleeping, how can they come to the conscious and the sleeping come together if they don't want to hear us? You can see that even with the voting and how they go about, some of us, they believe a lot of what that person is saying in the White House, and they would actually, if they can change their skin, they would. So it makes it almost virtually impossible to bring us together. But that's where we got to start having those conversations of bringing all of us together to say, okay, this is our plan. This is what we need to do. We had the blueprint when we had the Rosewood, and during that time, they showed us that it's possible and it can be done. So it's just a matter of reaching back, looking at it, perfecting it, and make it happen. But we all got to be on the same page. We're too divided at times.
Young lady.
That's just how I feel about that.
Yeah, Kwame Ture taught us one of his main phrases were the job of the conscious is not to make the unconscious conscious, it's to make them conscious of their unconscious behavior. The job of the conscious is not to make the unconscious conscious, it's simply to make them conscious of their unconscious behavior. Because a lot of times we just be out here doing stuff.
Yeah.
Without even knowing. We just be out here doing stuff. We don't have any context, no background. They know us so well program, reprogram, deprogram. That's what George Clinton said we got to do. Program, reprogram, deprogram. That's what we got to do. That's why we give out the books in the hood. We give out the Joyce DeGruy books. We give out the Miseducation of the Negro. We give out all these classic books for free in the hood. 4, 5, 6 days a week sometimes for the most part. Every day doing political education. Not only do we give out the books, Black Hoodie Brigade, we give impromptu history lessons. So before I put a book, because people always ask me, how you know they reading the books? How you know they reading the books? Because if they don't read the books, they say they don't want the book. So we put the books, I put the book in the hand. Before I even put the book in the hand, I tell them what the book's about. This is what I learned from Dr. Bruce Bridges in Durham. It's not enough to give somebody a book. You got to know what's in the book and know that you know what you're talking about. So in the Black Hoodie Brigade, we stress knowing what you're talking about. One person, one book at a time. People get intimidated. Well, brother, I'm new to this conscious thing. I've only read one book. I haven't read thousands of books like you have. So our thing is one person, one book at a time. Our 4-point program. Get a book. Study that book. Teach what you learn in that one book to somebody else and repeat the process. One person, one book at a time. That's where we start, Dr. Diamond.
Wonderful.
Thank you.
That's awesome. Yes. Go ahead, Mark, because I know you're getting ready to say something.
I was going to say, Mr. Scott, one of the other things I was curious about, because down here in Durham, and I know you've got some thoughts on this as well and everything, we're in the city of medicine, and we do know that we've been targeted in the past for health studies, whether that was the Tuskegee experiment or a number of other things. So I was just wondering, are we still being targeted in terms of the way the health industry is treating us and all along those lines? I have never asked you that question, but I'm just wondering your thoughts on whether we're being targeted, the Black and brown community, when it comes to our healthcare.
Of course, we are the most studied people on the planet. Like I was saying earlier, we are the most studied people on the planet. I would suggest everybody read Harriet Washington's book, Medical Apartheid. It's called Medical Apartheid by Harriet Washington. She also has a good book on around the same subject, but she's really talking about environmental racism called A Terrible Thing to Waste. But study Harriet Washington, she'll tell you. She breaks it all the way down and puts everything in context, because a lot of times we think we can just go on YouTube or go on whatever and be Google scholars. Nah, you got to go back and read the book. You got to read the whole book, because these people I've debated, the Sean Hannitys of the world, they've read the whole book. If they haven't read the whole book, they're people, they're researchers, they've read the whole book. So it's not enough just to be Google scholars and just Google something right quick. You got to read the whole book. Because you'll be quoting something on page 5 and they'll pull out, ask you, what do you think about page 222?
That's where knowledge is power, knowing what you're talking about, because you're right.
Weapons.
Yeah. And we have to be on point. We have to. So we definitely want a list of these books that I was writing them down as I went, but I definitely want your link so we can put it on our page, so you will continue to have followers, because this is important. You gave us a lot of information, and there was you answered a lot of questions. I do want to go to our comment section though, and just pick a couple of comments here that kind of stood out to me. There is about the homeschool, teach your kids enough of their BS to test out of their curriculum, but secretly teaching our youth the truth that they need to know, when we're homeschooling. I want to just use myself as an example. I was not homeschooled, but how did I learn Black history? My aunt. Because how would I know myself? So what she did was, I grew up in New York City, and New York City museums, they are what I consider it like a playground for us. If you're interested in museums, I love them. But what she did was, my first knowledge of self is when she took me past the colonizers and we went past them and she went right to the African exhibits. And then she started breaking it down to me where these artifacts came from. But you know what she continued to say behind that? I just want to let you know this was not offered to them. This was stolen. And I would, at the time when you're like, oh my God, because I finally, as an adult, I was able to tell her, I was a little like, why are you saying stolen? But now I understand what she meant by that. And then she also said, and we were stolen. So all of that came full circle as I began to understand who I was, understand who we are as a people, how powerful we are. So when she gave me that introduction, that gave me the knowledge that I needed and the kickstart to understanding who we are as a people. So I actually thank her for that to this day. So, to the person in the comment, Jeremiah, I agree with you. If we have the capabilities of teaching our children at home, even if they go to the public school, still, educating them about us is the most powerful thing we can do for our children so they understand who they are in this world and the significance and the power that they have and the roles that they're going to play in the future. Let's see here. Let me go back up a little bit here. This was about Elon Musk when we were talking about him. Not a conspiracy is true. If you are white from South Africa, then you are probably a descendant of an African colonizer. All right. So do we agree? I mean, some of us can agree, some of us don't agree. But what do you think about this comment that you're hearing?
Everything is context. If you're not familiar with Steve Biko,
yes, I am.
Go back and study Steve Biko. Steve Biko, before woke, we were conscious. Woke is a hijacked term. We were saying wake up back when Spike Lee did School Days back in 1989. Woke is a hijacked term. Culture vultures. Go back if you want to learn about South Africa, if you want to learn about the origins of the Black Consciousness Movement, read Steve Biko's book, and I strive to justice book, I Write What I Like. I Write What I Like, Steve Biko. Study him. Study Winnie. Study Winnie Mandela. We know about Nelson, but study Winnie Mandela. She was the writer. Winnie was the writer. Nelson was the politician. Winnie Mandela was the writer. They were scared of Winnie. They weren't scared of Nelson.
I do have to tease my co-host and everything because I am a pet lover, as Minister Scott knows and everything. So I see we've got another host that is joining us as well. So the dog is going to make some comments also. So the dog is definitely joining and enjoying the conversation.
Next time she'll put a gown on, but she was barking, so I had to pick her up. So I guess she said I was too long. Yeah, this little brat, she has a whole wardrobe. I think she was human in her former life, and now she's on 4 legs as a punishment because she's not the average dog.
Okay.
This is Roxy Rose.
When Rocks Cry Out is an amazing book to read. The author is Horace Butler. It will really open your mind to a lot of things we don't understand. So again, that is one of the other books that we will put on our page for those that are going to, following us and those that will be going back to listen to our segment today. There was a lot that you said gave us today, Minister, and
I did have one other question that you missed.
Sure, yeah, absolutely. Go for it.
You missed one of the quotes and everything, and I think it's something that I think Minister Scott should talk about as well, because Jeremiah Duffy said, whatever you do best, monetize it. Then teach your kids the trade to so they can continue the trade. Because I know that even here in this area, it's something that frustrates me sometimes because generational wealth is a real thing, and we've had some publications like right here in Durham. The Carolina Times, which is our Black publication, doesn't exist anymore because I would say 3rd or 4th generation, I got to study and remember which generation they were in, decided that they were no longer interested in the newspaper field. So they have no longer publishing and it no longer exists. So what is your thoughts around generational legacy and us maintaining our legacy in our buildings, because as you know, that's part of what we try to do here at the Hayti Heritage Center. But it is a continued battle, and there are always people that are trying to tear down, and sometimes things like the Carolina Times are going the way of the dodo bird, if I can use that analogy and everything. So what is your take on how we can maintain some of our institutions and also do this monetization thing?
Cultural continuity. Cultural continuity. That is the key. You mentioned Malcolm X Liberation University. Many people in Durham don't know anything about Malcolm X Liberation University. Betty Shabazz, Malcolm X's wife, was here when they opened it up.
Yes.
There's a video that you can look, and brothers and sisters in Durham are wearing dashikis and at the grand opening at Malcolm X Liberation University. Cultural continuity is the key. We got to connect the dots.
Yeah, we definitely have to connect the dots.
We're just
I have to teach you about that though, Minister Scott, because as you know, my dad is a well-known artist here in the area and everything. And I'm gonna let I think Dr. Diamond's husband has heard this story. I know Miss Toya and the other hostess has not heard this story before, but I am convinced, because I am still in my 60s and still in that singles lane and everything. But because I did go to that Malcolm X University when it was dedicated, so my brother was born that day, I would have been like 7. So I was probably like around 2nd or 3rd grade. So I did attend that school, or at least was part of their attendance. I don't know that I was actually formally there, but I did write a short poem, for lack of a better term, and everything along those lines. And I'm convinced to this day, Dr. Diamond, that my dad still has that poem. If I should ever find Miss Wright before I turn 70, he will probably bring the poem out and blackmail me, whether she is a sister or whether she is a white woman, because the poem was literally called Kill Whitey. So I'm sure that Jim Lee has that poem and will use it against me and all along those lines, because I was a young 80-year-old and I did write the Kill Whitey poem at that particular time. So that's just going to pick out of that, Dr. Diamond.
Oh my goodness. Listen, hey, you were young at the time. I don't know what to tell you.
I was young at the time, and it was part of the Malcolm X kind of concept that they were teaching us at the time. So I can't argue with it.
No, that was the time frame. So hey, again, becoming more conscious of what was around you. You wrote about it.
Wrote about it.
You wrote about it. Yes.
And I have jokes with my dad that if I ever was to find Miss Wright, and he would probably come and pull that poem out, because I'm still convinced that it's in his file cabinet. He'd be like, "So you think Mark's a nice guy? You think he's classy? Well, let me just give you this poem so that you can have second thoughts and everything."
Oh my goodness. That is funny. I love that. That was really, really good. Really good. Today's segment was awesome. Like this, I learned a lot today from you. Learned a whole lot. And I hope our listeners learn a whole lot from you today. And I definitely would love to welcome you back again, to talk to us more about, just understanding that we do need books to make us more knowledgeable on what's around us. It teaches us our history. It teaches us how we move forward. And with this climate today, I want to kind of link that in also. With this climate today, we do need the knowledge. We have to have it so we can survive, because we are in for a roller coaster ride and we don't know what the outcome is going to be. Just as Toya said earlier, it's so many different distractions, but it's trying to stay on that right path. And we got to figure out what is our path and how we're going to walk it. And part of that, I do believe, Minister, is just to keep ourselves knowledgeable, because that's what I'm hearing you say. Stay on that path by being knowledgeable, because without the knowledge, you're going to be off the path constantly. Am I going in the right direction? Was that a part of your message today?
Yeah, because the social media, the internet is only going to archive things for 15 years. Because the stuff I did back in the 90s, unless you go into, Wave Machine, but social media really only keeps stuff for 15 years. Get the book. Yeah. Books are forever. But I did want to make 2 points, if I could. Before first, shout out to the Black Hoodie Brigade. They're in here deep. Black Hoodie Brigade, I see you. Thank you for your support. Black Hoodie Brigade, this is our mission You had Malcolm X University and Liberation University in the late 60s. You had the No Bookstore in the late 80s, 90s, and early 2000s. Now it's the era of the Black Hooded Brigade, where we take that knowledge of our ancestors and our warrior scholars and our master teachers and put it in the hood. That's the phase we're in now. That's the phase we're in now. But I want to give a cryptic warning. I want y'all to listen very clearly. I'm concerned about what's happening in DC. But let me add this little caveat. All politics is local. The people, don't worry about him as much as you worry about the people who voted for him.
Mm-hmm.
He can say certain things and get shot down. He's just putting things in motion. It's his foot soldiers that are going to carry it out. We have short memories. We have short attention spans. They used to say, give us something, put an issue out there for 90 days, and they'll forget about it after 90 days. Now with social media, you got 72 hours before people on what Beyonce did. Short attention spans. In North Carolina right now, study states' rights. That's what you have to look for, states' rights. What the conservatives have traditionally done, look at the Southern strategy. Even go back to, I know they were Democrats back then, but they were still conservative. Go back to post-Reconstruction. Their big thing has been states' rights. They want to put the power in the states. Even North Carolina, just yesterday, Mark, they released a bill where they want to do what the president is doing on a national level. They got a bill in North Carolina to do the same thing. And when it's local, people can mobilize. That's when you had the Tea Party running up on people. Back when Obama was president. That's when you have people when they were attacking critical race theory. Now Durham is a real black city, but everywhere in North Carolina is not Durham. Johnson County, parts of Wake County. Once you step out of Durham, you still in the mega land. We get satisfied and conditioned in Durham. Say, okay, we're good. Everywhere ain't Durham.
Well, let me.
People are going to be running up into school boards. People are going to be running up into city council meetings, 50, 60 deep. They're organized. When Trump says something and puts out that dog whistle, they're listening. Trump ain't going to carry it out. His foot soldiers going to carry out on a local level. All politics is local, y'all.
But thank you for giving me a visualization, a review of that. My mother's family is from Mississippi, Jim Crow South. Okay, I went there every summer. My father's family's from Fayetteville, and the family's from Wiggum. So think about that. I went to a funeral. I mean, not a funeral, a wedding, and I hadn't gone into the country. So think about Fayetteville, the bases. So you just brought me back. What we're missing now is a big mama in the house. So think about during this time, there's no grandparents. My son never met his grandparents. So when I went to Mississippi, I sent him. So this is what's going on. Our history is being lost. Because if the parents are young and they're having kids, the grandmother's is 3 generations. But if it's, I don't have to say anymore, where is our history? I remember shelling peas and things like that. That's why I like to cook. Then you look at the children now, their kids are interracial. They don't want to learn the other language. So that's where everything is done, bilingual. If your children are half Hispanic, they should know the language. My best friend is Hispanic. Her 3 interracial, 2 of her children, and the one that is Puerto Rican does not know Spanish. So this is what I'm saying to you. I'm using this as an example of what we're missing. We need to pass our history on. And thank you, Minister Paul Scott, for awakening me. Because now, if we don't give our history in our homes, what are we doing? So you just brought me back to when my fire was hot.
Yeah, tell you, not just
it fizzled out based on circumstances, moving forward. But we need to be with our kids.
Yeah. But the other thing we've got to do, and Mrs. Scott, I know you are aware of this as well, is that You talk about politics being local. Gentrification is real, because even here in Durham, we're seeing a lot of people that are moving into what used to be our historical neighborhoods and everything like that. And one of the things that I try to advocate for is I can't stop people from moving in of different races and classes. But if you move into a neighborhood, and this is anybody, learn your neighborhood. Don't just come into the neighborhood and not learn the neighborhood. So like even the people that are literally just down from this cultural arts center that I'm at, and there's a number of white and Asian folks that have moved in this area. I just hope that they are learning the history of what they are stepping into and not just moving here for the sake of moving into a neighborhood and gentrifying it. But I don't know your thoughts on that, Minister Scott.
I mean, I agree. 8 years ago, the New York Times, and you can still pull it up, did an article on me, and it was called "Black Durham Residents Ask Is There Still Room for Us?" That was in the New York Times back in 2018. You can still look it up. My thoughts remain the same since that article.
Powerful. This is very powerful today. So, of course, we always have at the end, our, takeaway. But before we do that, I'm going to shift gears for a moment, and I'm going to bring in our health segment. Now, this is very important for us too, because Minister Scott, you talked about health earlier, how, us, the Black body, and how we've been used, but also we need to learn to take care of ourselves properly. And then with it being Heart Awareness Month, this is where our nurse is going to come in. She's going to educate us on taking care of ourselves, because we have to. And I need our community to listen to her. It is very important that we start going to the hospital, doing what we're supposed to do. The awareness of our bodies. These are the things that she's going to let us, talk to us about. And a part of this segment and bringing this in, because this is going to be a part of On the Couch. This is important. And, health for her is very important. She wants to educate our communities, and she will be a part of these segments, each and every time we have our podcast going on. It's very important. So I'm going to shift gears here, and I am going to let, Miss Beverly come in, and she is going to talk about, again, cardiac awareness. And we are going to, I'm going to be quiet now. So, Miss Beverly, I'm going to bring you in now for your health segment.
Good morning. Good morning. I do apologize for not being on camera, but Dr. Diamond, you know why. However, I just wanted to thank Minister Scott for all of that knowledge, especially the book on the medical apartheid. Excuse me, I'm running from upstairs to my basement. I am in the medical field, of course, over 20 plus years. Working now, I know I should be talking about cardiac health, but I just wanted to mention I am a nurse navigator for oncology. So I get a lot of patients of color. I actually handle breast cancer patients. And I would say out of all of the women of color, I would say at least 90% have triple negative breast cancer, which is alarming. Work with some of the doctors, and I think the treatment does vary. So I'm new into that particular department. So I'm doing my own research on the side. So I had a friend a couple years ago who had one of the doctors, and he told her, oh, well, she had a lymph node that needed to be removed. And he says, well, his comment to her was, well, I'll go and get the one node, but I'm not going in there chasing all those lymph nodes. At the time, I didn't know who this doctor was. However, fast forward 3 years later, she is deceased. And I'm working directly with this doctor. So I'm doing my own study, my own encouragement whenever I meet with my people or people of color. I'm a vegetarian, have healed myself of illnesses by doing the right thing, adopting healthy habits, removing certain things out of my diet. So I take that approach with my patients because I'm trying to keep them around. Triple negative breast cancer is not curable. So by the time we get to them, we're just trying to basically give them palliative care, keep them comfortable, treat the symptoms, but you're not curing the cancer at that point. And the only mode of action they take, of course, it's an oncology department. So they're looking to push the chemos and not going the natural route. It's all about the chemo. 2 and 3 times a week, we're getting free lunches from the pharmaceutical companies that are coming in pushing their drugs. So I have a whole lot ahead of me because I started following Queen Afua out of New York over 20 years ago. And I do a lot of holistic health research. I have a health coach actually a health coach business, Sisters Keeper Health Coaching Counseling. So each one teach one. I am my sister's keeper, and I'm just trying to get, just educate one at a time. It's not an easy task, but I'm charged by God to do just what I'm doing.
Amen.
So I'll switch gears and just talking about cardiac. We have to do better. We know when we have been diagnosed with these particular illnesses like the high blood pressures and all of these, the coronary artery disease, the first thing they're doing, again, is pushing medication. But we have to take action prior to that. And when we are diagnosed, medication isn't the only cure. You can reverse a lot of the illnesses that are upon you. But of course, you have to be open and willing. That's where I come in with my health coaching. And I say one at a time. Not everyone is receptive to it. I come from New Bern, North Carolina. So you know where I grew up. And, I think our people over time, it's not that, this is the only, they always say, I inherited this high blood pressure. No, what you inherited were the practices of our ancestors and our parents and grandparents, the cooking methods. However, back in the day, they used purer foods, especially being in North Carolina. You got, if you were going to cook a pig, you put them up, is what, as they refer to it, and you fed it natural and you cleaned it out before you ate it. But the stuff they're eating today are antibiotic pumped up pigs and cows and all of these type animals. I don't eat animal meat because it's disgusting and it's killing our people. So however, once you are diagnosed, I like to teach a lot on disease management to try to correct these issues, especially the high blood pressure, just some things that we can do: the sleep, the diet, which I mentioned, the smoking. It's a biggie. It causes vasoconstriction. Maintaining healthy weight. A lot of our people are overweight because of our diet and the sedentary lifestyles, which leads me to becoming more active. Which you need to control your cholesterol, managing stress. In this society, it's not so easy to manage stress because we know the world that we're living in. But just practicing self-care, managing your blood sugar and your hypertension, your high blood pressure, because those two together are deadly. And that's why we end up with so many on dialysis, which is a whole other animal. I go right down that rabbit hole, but we don't have the time. And with this being Black History Month, I just wanted to, admonish all of our people to learn CPR. Because right now, Black Americans have the highest incidence of cardiac arrest outside of the hospital and are significantly less likely to survive for the simple fact if they're witnessed going down at home, a lot of times we don't know what to do. We're going to call 911 and we're going to cry. They stand there and cry. And oh my gosh, I don't know what to do. Get this, get that. I'm a CPR instructor as well. So I just admonishing our people to just, learn. Like I said, knowledge is power. I cannot wait to get this book on the medical apartheid. There's just so much information. I'm so passionate about the medical field and trying to save as many as I can. I wanted to just mention the American Heart Association. Their goal is to double the survival of cardiac arrest by 2030. Not necessarily our people, but in general. However, once I hadn't given blood for years, I gave blood in June. Since I've given blood, they call me daily. oh, we need, there's a shortage. There's a shortage. They always want me because of my blood type. They're always on me to give blood. But like I said, we just have to do better. Our people, I'm all over the place. I know I'm talking about so many subjects because I'm trying to get it in. But again, like I said, I do have my health coach business. I'll be working with Dr. Diamond. We'll be coordinating retreats and just other podcasts talking strictly on health. This one was, so much information. We can't possibly get it all in, but I do appreciate the time to be able to just, mention a few things. And I'll say one last thing before I get off. It's not on heart health, but I'm just going to mention about hysterectomies and the alarming rate of Black women getting hysterectomies. Years ago, I was told, oh, you have fibroids. You probably need a hysterectomy. Well, I looked at the doctor following Queen Afua. She used to have a show. I lived in Northern Jersey at the time. She had a show. She's out of Brooklyn. And I got her book. I started my own research, cut out the white flour, the sugars, the things out of my diet. I didn't get my uterus taken out. I shrunk my fibroids. I healed myself. But a lot of people I talk to, the doctor says that's not the only answer. I know 10 people I can call right off the bat, people that I know that ended up with hysterectomies because of fibroids. And that's not to take the uterus out is not the answer. But I just want to thank Dr. Diamond for just letting me go on a rant as far as the healthcare. I would love to come back on and do a segment. Like I said, I know we were on heart health this month, but there's just so much. And like I said, working as an oncology nurse right now, it's so much going on. So I would love to come back and be a guest again and just speak on other topics. But thank you, Minister Scott. I have a list of books and I cannot wait to get started. And my cousin, I'm sure you only saw Bernie is out of she's out of Durham. Black Woman's Guide to Menopause. I'm sure she's an activist there, so I'm sure she's well known. But like I said, from North Carolina up here in Jersey, just, trying to save one at a time. I appreciate your time today and all the recommendations.
Hey, just really quickly, Miss Beverly Wasadi is actually on my list of people to reach out to because she's part of my activism community that I consider to be good friends and all along those lines. Just like Minister Scott, I've known for a while, and I know Minister Scott also knows Omasadi as well. So Omasadi, Carl Kinney, and some others were definitely on my short list of folks to be in touch with for this On the Couch show because Omasadi is quite well known and she does have that Black Woman's Guide to Menopause and everything like that. Yes, I'm very familiar with Omasadi, just like I'm familiar with Jess Everhart and some others that are on that short list. So don't be surprised if you don't see your relative in the upcoming episodes because I've known Omasadi for a while and she's appeared on some podcasts that I've been part of and everything. But this is actually for both you and Minister Scott, because I know we're getting ready to wrap it up shortly and everything, but we were talking about apartheid and all along those lines and even gentrification. But I know Minister Scott has been involved in the fight against not just the liquor companies, but also the fast food that is in our society. And I'd be lying if I said that I'm not guilty of literally going across the street sometimes to KFC and everything. But we do know that they target our communities intentionally. But I was wondering if you had any thoughts around that or Minister Scott, because we do know that a lot of times they target our fast food locations in our communities.
Minister Scott, if you'd like to speak on that.
You on mute. Minister, you're on mute.
Sorry, but I was so intently listening what Sister Beverly was speaking. I forgot. I wanted to put it on mute to make sure I didn't interfere. But yeah, but the closest I got to dealing with that subject was energy drinks. Mm-hmm. And that was basically the marketing of the way they marketed certain energy drinks. You know, energy drinks are high in sugar. They were pushing an energy drink called Legal Lean. And if you listen to New Orleans hip hop and Lil Wayne and Cash Money, you know what lean is. That's when you mix cocaine with alcohol. So they call that an energy drink. And also the pimp juice was also an energy drink. So just like was said earlier, It's all about marketing. It's the way things are marketed to our community. That's my interest.
Absolutely. And when you mention, the foods like the yogurts, they would push the yogurts and all of this stuff. And then they come, the Susan Komen, G. Komen, that's one of the, the breast cancer initiative awareness committees. And that was funded like by Yoplait and all of these, like the Yoplait yogurt. I'm just using that as an example, high in sugar, but it's yogurt, it's good for you. They just, if it has any like type organisms, or they're saying, it's good for you, it has the acidophilus, all of these things in it that can cure the gut. They push this yogurt, that Yoplait yogurt is no more good for you than a soda is, but that's what they push. But most of these companies and these committees and these foundations like that in particular are founded by the bigger companies that are putting out these products. So they push their marketing, their foods, because they're getting kickbacks from it. You know what I'm saying? So I follow Dr. Bobby Price, Dr. Holistic on Instagram. But like I said, Queen Afua, just look up holistic health and start reading for yourself, just starting small. Sugars, white flour, a lot of things cause inflammation. Inflammation causes pain. And if you would, a lot of people, I got to take this pill because the doctor said I have to take this pill. It'll help me, this pain pill. Well, no, if you modify your diet, let's go down the list and modify your diet. We can relieve a lot of that pain by just getting rid of decreasing the inflammation. So when I have clients come to me for, my health coaching business, the first thing I do is have them keep a food diary for a week. And let's look at the products you're eating. Now, I'm not saying everybody needs to give up meat, because that's my choice. And, I try not to judge others, but I know what works for me and I know what can prolong my life. It's not even about longevity, but it is about a quality of life. And my sister being one is probably on, I don't know how, at least 20 medications. I see our people on all these medications, and how it's not like one's going to take one road, another's go, I'm just going to target this. No, this stuff is all mixing together. You have to push your fluids to rid your body of all of this. It just builds up and you have other issues, and it's just, like I said, I'm so passionate about just improving our health because we're dying at alarming rates. I'm in a cancer center and I'm seeing a 90-year-old coming in for cancer treatment. Okay. And wanting to be aggressive. And I see a 47-year-old who's, on borrowed time and looking forward to ringing the bell at the end of her treatment. And I know she's not going to make it, so it's a lot. It's heavy on the head, but, and the heart, but I can only do one at a time. And that's my ministry. And until I'm gone, I'm going to continue to push for better health, modifying these diets, changing what you eat. I'm on my sister all the time, but our foods are comfort foods. So, let's get together. That's what we did. We got together, we had big Sunday dinners and everyone looks forward to that. But there are other ways to cook these foods and not continue to, we just succumb to the illness and die at such an early rate. I thank God that I am 58 years old and I don't take any medication because I'm conscious of my health. And I know so many people much younger than they're on tons of medication. So, I thank God, I have that higher power. I'm very spiritual. I try to do my yoga, my meditation, and just trying to, live right and try to help each one, one along as I go, each one teach one. And I'm one at a time. That's all I can do.
Yeah, I like what Jeremiah said. He said it's called the Food and Drug Administration. They sell both products the same way, and that is very much the case and everything. And I did have a coworker in one of my institutions that I work at, and they actually not that long ago had and are still fighting it because they are, I think, temporarily in a coma, but they had an aortic aneurysm, and that could be very costly and very problematic in terms of your health and everything. So I think that they're in a induced coma right now, but hopefully they are recovering and all along those lines. But yeah, those are important issues that you were talking about in terms of your health moment and everything along those lines. Just really quickly on a lighter note and everything, what is your thoughts around Dr. Beverly and everything, or Miss Beverly, the whole notion of the environment and us being outside and that being a way to help our health. Because even Miss Toya had her dog earlier, and I'm a big advocate of nature and nature in terms of it being a supportive thing. Because I even try to get outside myself, even though I do a lot of these inside events. I try to get out and get some fresh air. So how important do you think fresh air is to our health?
Oh, it's very important. Getting out every day, especially when it's cold, to get outside. You walk, you take those deep breaths, bring in that cold air. Even when you're hiking, I like to hike. I like to be in the woods, and like you see people say, hug a tree," and they laugh about it. But it's some truth to hugging that tree. You know what I'm saying? And what you're drawing from that tree. So if you can get out, I don't care if it's 20 minutes. I know it's cold. I don't care. Get out, walk around your backyard, walk around the parking lot, wherever you might live. But each and every day, get out. Let's just try to get out, get that fresh air, and just move. You got to move. If it's too cold for some, go to the mall and walk out. But just being out there, that sun hitting you, although it's, with all the toxins in the environment, still it's so important to get out to nature, get out in the woods. It just commune with nature. Go outside when the weather's warmer. Go outside barefoot. Walk around the backyard. Walk in the grass. Ground yourself. That's so important. I happened to be in North Carolina during the eclipse. A couple years ago, I was renting an Airbnb in my home in New Bern, and during just going outside and walking outside barefoot, lying out there in that grass. Don't worry about the bugs, but just ground yourself. It's so important.
Yeah.
Yes. So we are coming close to the end of the show here. So what I like to do, of course, and before I even go to the final comments, this is for Miss Beverly. Miss Beverly, everything you're talking about is very important. So you are a big part of, being on this couch. So with you taking on, or I have offered you to be a part of this show because I know you have value, and we do need to educate our communities at large. And it's very important that you continue your journey that God put you on this assignment. So I'm a part of your assignment. So you are officially one of our co-hosts here on the couch. Your health segments are very important, and we do need that aspect of this. So thank you for joining us today and moving forward in the future. So with that, I'm going to start with you, Mark, with your final comments. Do you have a final comment? And then we're going to work our way around.
Just a great show. I was glad to be able to be on this show with you in the relaunch of the On the Couch show, and definitely have my good friend Minister Scott on this first show. And it was all right with you and all along those lines and everything. I will. You've kind of done it already, but I would like to extend an invitation for him to come back whenever he's available. I know he's a very busy man and all along those lines, but I know that I would love him to make it back whenever he's able to make it back. And I know we're trying to record every 2 weeks or so. So anytime that he's available to share some of that wisdom, maybe even have a book knowledge, a book of the week or something like that he might give us, or something along those lines. But that was just something that popped into my head and everything, because I do know when it comes to healthy living, Minister Scott, like I joked at earlier when I introduced him, he's definitely got that healthy lifestyle, because I'm still convinced, Minister Scott, that you wake up with the rooster. So I'm still convinced that you're up at 5 o'clock in the morning and all along those lines, and that you are busy until the midnight hour, if I can use that song from a famous blues singer, and all along those lines. So I'm not sure when you get sleep, because I do know that sleep is an important element to what we do in life and everything. And we can fret about what's going on politically, but we can also make a difference. And you're definitely one of those change agents. And I am a big advocate of change agents and all along those lines. So I would encourage our listeners to find ways to be change agents, but also don't fret over things that are outside of our control, but trying to work on things that we can change and try to make this as positive of a world as we can make it. Because we do have a rough 4 years, but that doesn't mean that we can't change, like you said, Minister Scott, on our local level and all along those lines. So I'm not going to worry about what's going on in DC, because I can't control it, but so much and all along those lines. But definitely that would be my thing, is for us to find ways to be change in our own community.
Mm-hmm. Thank you for that. Ms. Toya, you are up next. Final comments.
I really enjoyed our kickoff. It is February and it was well planned out. It really made me go back to my village that got me here. I started out country girl, and now I can see that everything that was instilled in me, even though at times I feel I was shrunk, but now you gave me the platform to really dig deep down to see how I got here today. Having a grandmother who was there, and because my mom died at such a young age, I had to go to Mississippi every summer. So that culture of being in the Jim Crow South, going to get the cheese and things like that, food stamps, elderly. But I just know that with the intergenerational wealth, we had a house in New Brunswick and we every back and forth. But what I do see now, just bringing up that we sell those properties because of the high value. So now if we would keep that land and things of that, then that would be our intergenerational wealth where we just pay taxes on it. And that's something that we can discuss in the future, but just witnessing a lot of things, being her heir, you understand? So there was decisions where I signed my name for things that I probably shouldn't have signed. So you understand liquidation of assets. But speaking of the books, being able to be a Martin Luther King player, that I was able to read books and do things and speak of things and see that. However, due to my upbringing, couldn't go to a historically Black college, but I knew what it was. I wanted to be the statistic that graduated. So you understand? So that's a whole nother topic, but I was well versed, but I made sure while I was in college, I took African-American studies. So at Seton Hall. So these are things that I have, eyes on the prize, books in my library. And thank you for that, Minister, to bring me back to my youth where my fire was. However, with life, you change. But I know that this platform today, we are on longer. However, things have been seeds. Now, thank you for Miss Beverly for coming on, because I'm a person who's on a lot of medications. And I also changed my diet, which when I did a repeat test, and then it was different. The type of, what was in my biopsy. So health and changing your diet is very important. No longer drinking dairy, and that is being seen in me because of the inflammation that's in my body. But I'm a blessing, 23 surgeries in the last 10 years, and I'm still here. So that's a whole nother topic. But I'm glad that I am a part of this podcast, and I'm looking forward to what is to come. So thank you again for the platform.
Hey, Dr. Diamond, before you get to Minister Scott, I do have to tease Miss Toya and everything. I knew there was a reason I liked her, because she is a fellow Big East person, because I am a Marquette Golden Eagle, and she just mentioned being from Seton Hall, so that means that they are part of the Big East as well, and all along those lines. So there's a little bit of rivalry going on as well, because I do know that that's one of our big rivalries. Then I just got a Duke shirt because I happen to go to live near Dukes, but my alma mater is Marquette, and all along those lines. So the Marquette Golden Eagles, which is in the same conference with the whole Big East that Seton Hall sits in.
The Pirates.
And everything, yes. And then last but not least, if anybody's in Durham, since we've mentioned Durham several times, we have a quilt exhibit. So we're talking about things that are important in culture. There's an African-American Quilter Circle. The show has been up for a month, and about a month and a half got another month, because it'll be up for about the middle of March. So if you happen to be here, you can go to HI.org, or you can stop by the venue and see these beautiful quilts, because it is mostly sisters that have made these quilts, and they are truly beautiful, and they cover about 3 floors in the building. So as I know, Minister Scott knows some of the women that do this quilting, including Kimberly Cartwright and others. They are very intricate. So hopefully if folks are in the area, they can check it out, and all along those lines.
Wonderful. Ms. Beverly, we're going to go on to you for final comments. What do you have?
Well, I'd just like to thank you for having me on. It was impromptu, so I was running around doing 1,000 things today, but it was my pleasure to be on. Like I said, I know I skipped around on different topics because there's just so much to talk about, but I look forward to coming back on. I thank Minister Scott for the recommendations, for all the books. I'm a big advocate of reading. My daughters were too. We only had Black toys in our home, Black dolls, and they both read at 3. They went to Chad School, which was up in Newark. It was Black run private school. They went there for their my oldest daughter for the first part of her schooling education until like the second grade when we moved. But just want to, thank everyone. I have my roots out of North Carolina, my foundation, but, I'm so passionate about health because I lost my parents when I consider very young. My dad was retired from Cherry Point. The one gentleman that are on there from Durham, I'm sure you know, the Marine base, but he was able to retire in his 50s, but he was gone at 66, which is way too young. And my mother at 71. So, I'm pioneering out here just for a better health and to let our people get to longevity as well. So I thank you.
Thank you. Minister?
I just want to thank you all for having me on this powerful program. I truly enjoyed it. I wish you all much success with this program. It's very needed in our community. We got to turn off Netflix sometimes. We got to turn off Tubi sometimes and get some knowledge in our heads, especially in 2025. And I just want to lastly shout out the Black Hoodie Brigade. A lot of them were in the chat. So I just want to shout out my fam, the Black Hoodie Brigade. Let's change the world, starting in Durham. Knowledge is a weapon. Peace.
Thank you for that. And for my final comment, thank you. Thank you so much, Minister Paul Scott, for all the work that you're doing in our communities. And yes, it could take one person. Then that one person will bring another person and another person. So what we're discussing today, each one teach one. And that's important that we are doing that. It is our responsibility for teaching others, especially in our community. We have always been a people that taught others. We were communal people, and we're still the same way. It's just that we got to reach back and start really doing that, like bringing that back in. Understanding distractions, as you talked about today, but focusing on what the prize is. What is the prize? The prize is the knowledge that we obtain from each other, and take that and utilize it as a weapon. That weapon would be that there's nothing you can do with my knowledge and my power that I have that's going to make me move forward. And that's what I got today. I was able to understand, again, everyone knows why we should read, but now you gave me more. Why should we read and take that knowledge and utilize it in the most powerful way as possible? So understanding the books over bullets, now I understand why that statement or that, is made. Because if we can move away from the violence, we can move away to positivity and moving forward as working as a collective group, because that is important to us. Also, for those that's in the comments, yes, your Black Hoodie Brigade, we are thankful that you showed up today and showed out. All of the comments that we received and everyone that is listening to us. And we are back and we're powerful, and we're going to keep moving forward with the knowledge that we need to drop every 2 weeks. It's very important that we do that. That is our task. That is our job. And bringing together this group of knowledgeable people is something that I had to do. Like Beverly talked about, we never know what God gives us as an assignment. But when you hear that whisper, take it and do what you're supposed to do. Because in the end, when this life is over, we're going to have to answer to God to, did we do what we were supposed to do? So I know I had to answer to that, and I had to move forward. Minister, you did the same thing. You heard what you had to do, and you did that. And that's important to us. So I thank you for what you brought us today. My listeners, they will thank you for it as well. And to my listeners, you will go back and you will listen to what you got today and know that we're living in a time that we have to use our knowledge to make us powerful. But in the end, thank you for joining us on the couch. Peace, love, and tranquility. And before we go, Mark, what you got?
I just had a quick question from Minister Scott and everything, because the Black Hoodie Brigade is based here in Durham, North Carolina, but I know that there are people that are watching, including those of you that are in the New Jersey area, and I know that you have listeners in Virginia, because I do know some of your husband's history and other history as well, and listeners from around the world. So my quick question to Dr. Minister Scott is, if people are interested in joining the Black Hoodie Brigade in their respective communities, including New Jersey, is there ways that they can reach out to you? And is that something that you are looking forward to doing, which is kind of like franchising, for lack of a better term, this notion of the Black Hoodie Brigade?
Yeah, step by step, Durham is priority because I'm in Durham. But yeah, in the very near future, and it's just about spreading knowledge. Get you a black hoodie, throw on some African medallions, get some free books from a used bookstore for pennies, and hit the hood. Okay. So if you're spreading knowledge in the Black Hoodie, if you're spreading knowledge in your community, black hoodies in the winter, black t-shirts in the summer, let's roll.
Oh, okay.
Or you can hit me on Facebook. You can hit me on Facebook, Minister Paul Scott. Just Google me. I'm easy to find.
Okay, wonderful, because I would love to put your information on our page as well, so that knowledge is there for those that are following us. They can find you and get that information as well. So we thank you very much again for coming on. And again, to all our listeners, thank you so much for, sticking with us. Thank you for the relaunch. For those that, we all a part of this. So the relaunch was wonderful, and having you on today was wonderful. But to all those that are listening, peace, love, and tranquility. Have a good weekend. Have a good week. Stay positive in this climate. We thank you for joining us today on the Couch. Take care, everybody. Until then, be safe.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Why is my outro pin here?
Thanks so much for tuning in to another episode of On the Couch. I hope you enjoyed today's conversation and found it as enlightening and inspiring as I did. Remember, the stories and experiences we share here are just the beginning of a much larger journey. Don't forget to subscribe on YouTube, look for the notification on Facebook, and find us on your favorite podcast platform. Your support helps us keep the conversation going and reach more listeners just like you. Until next time, stay curious, stay kind, and keep the dialogue alive. Peace, love, and tranquility. Take care, and we'll see you on the couch.
Are you cutting us off, or?
Thanks so much for tuning in to another